They say a neighborhood is only as peaceful as the people running it. But the day I opened my door to flashing blue lights and a smirking HOA president, I realized peace didn't exist here anymore. For 2 years straight, Karen, the woman who controlled our HOA like a personal kingdom, had made our life miserable. Fake violations, racist remarks, petty fines, intimidation. She even tried calling the cops on my wife, Elena, for hanging a small planter on our porch. Welcome back to my channel, HOA Tales. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Now, let's dive into the story. But that morning, as officers stepped onto my driveway with a folded citation in hand, Karen whispered with a smile, "Looks like you're finally leaving." She had no idea that the quiet woman she'd been bullying, my wife, was the very person who would bring her entire empire down. And this is how the HOA war ended. My name is Marcus. I'm a veteran, disabled, and a peaceful man who just wanted a quiet life. When we bought our home, all we dreamed of was stability, a garden, a porch swing, and a place where my wife and I could finally take a breath. But peace wasn't something Karen allowed. Karen wasn't just the HOA president. She was a judge, jury, and executioner of the entire neighborhood. Tall heels, perfect hair, sharp lips, and a voice that could slice concrete. To her, authority wasn't a responsibility. It was entertainment. The first violation we ever received was for our welcome mat. Apparently, welcome home was not HOA-approved wording. Then came the fine for our improperly aligned sidewalk flag. Then for non-standard potted plants. Then for my wheelchair ramp, which he claimed did not blend with the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Each notice felt like a punch in the chest. But the worst part wasn't the fines. It was the humiliation. Karen treated us like we didn't belong. Like we were invaders, not neighbors. She targeted families of color, people with disabilities, immigrants, anyone she thought wouldn't fight back. But she miscalculated one thing. My wife isn't someone you push around. See, Elena is calm, quiet, thoughtful, the kind of person who never raises her voice, but always raises the stakes. And while Karen spent her days hunting for violations, Elena spent hers documenting every single thing Karen did wrong. We just didn't know how much we would need it, because one evening, everything exploded. Karen showed up with 2 board members and a clipboard full of stacked violations, ones we had never even received by mail. She claimed we owed more than $3,900 in fines. She threatened to place a lien on our home and have us evicted. Yes, evicted, in our own house. That night, I broke down. I felt powerless, useless, defeated. But Elena, she didn't flinch. She sat down, opened her laptop, and said, "Marcus, do you trust me?" Of course I did, but I didn't understand how deep this would go. For months, Elena collected testimonies from neighbors, the ones Karen bullied, belittled, and scared. She recorded conversations, saved every letter, and built a long timeline of Karen's discriminatory actions. She even found proof that Karen allocated HOA funds for her own home renovation, illegal, unethical, and enough to sink an entire HOA board. See, Elena wasn't just some random homeowner. She was a judge, a specialist in housing discrimination, a quiet, brilliant powerhouse who spent her career standing up for people targeted by exactly this kind of abuse. But she hadn't revealed it, because judges can't just jump into neighborhood disputes. She couldn't use her job, but she could use her brain. And that's exactly what she did. Then came the day that changed everything. Karen called an emergency meeting with the police. She claimed we refused to pay our fines and were becoming a threat to the neighborhood's integrity. Officers showed up at our doorstep. Karen stood behind them with that smug, victorious smile. But Elena stepped forward first. She handed the officers a thick envelope. Inside was everything. 2 years of harassment evidence, racially motivated statements, misuse of HOA funds, illegal enforcement actions, and testimonies from nearly a dozen residents. The officers read in silence. Then one of them turned to Karen and said, "Ma'am, we need you to step aside." Karen froze, her face drained of color. Elena wasn't done. That evening, she attended the HOA meeting Karen thought she controlled. But when Elena walked in, half the neighborhood walked in behind her. Elena placed a binder on the table. 8 years of Karen's misconduct, gathered by the entire community. Then she announced that all the evidence had already been shared with the State Housing Commission, the Attorney General's Civil Rights Division, and a federal housing investigator. Karen's knees buckled because suddenly she wasn't in control anymore. A week later, an email arrived. Karen had officially resigned. Her real estate license was suspended. A lawsuit was pending. Restitution was ordered. She was banned from HOA boards. For life. The woman who had terrorized us? Taken down by the same people she tried to silence. Our neighbors brought flowers. Kids drew cards. People hugged each other, relieved. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt like home again. And as for Elena, she never bragged, never gloated. She simply made tea, sat on the porch, and said, "Sometimes justice takes time, but it always arrives." When someone abuses power, they forget that the quietest person they bully might be the one carrying the truth that ends them. I hope you liked the story. For more intriguing stories, please subscribe our channel and also click on bell button.